Okay, so this video is going to discuss some of the features of Roboguide. Roboguide is Fanuc's software simulation program. This software runs on a Microsoft Windows PC, and it allows you to simulate a work cell to test concept ideas, view how things are going to operate. Okay, but it's more than just a simulation software. It's actually running a virtual robot inside of the PC. And so what that means is that we have the PC is actually running a separate computer, or all the software, all the actual software that would be running on the physical robot's controller. Okay. And so this has some nice features with it. What this means is that you can actually uh, create an image or a backup of the real robot, and then you can load that up into this simulation software, and you'll have an exact copy of the robot software, all its settings, all the software options that are installed, all the user frames and tool frames that have been created. All of this that is on the actual robot would now be inside of this virtualization and simulation software. So that makes it nice because you can actually create robot programs and settings inside of the Roboguide at your PC and put them on a flash drive and transfer them over to the actual robot. So I'm going to start by just kind of walking you through the setup. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to run the Roboguide. And so the first thing that pops up here is a little kind of quick screen, and it shows you all the different work cells that you already have. So as you can see here, I've got quite a few work cells already created on here. But what we're going to do for now is we're just going to walk through the creation of a new cell. Okay? I'm going to walk through the setup of a new robot. Okay, so when you click on new cell here, the first thing it wants to do is give the work cell a name, and they give you a default generic name. I really don't like these generic names, so I'm just going to call this Roboguide Setup. Okay, and give it is still kind of a generic name, but at least it's something that I've defined and tells me what I was doing with this work cell. All right, so then we just click on next, and we get to the setup creation method. And this is at the point where if you had an actual backup image from your robot, you could select create a robot from file backup, and then you could point it to your backup file, and it would go out there, read that file, and actually then create an exact copy of your physical robot in your plant. And hopefully you are backing up your robots periodically, because you know, all the information on your robot is basically stored in RAM and flash RAM on the actual motherboard of the robot. And you know, every once in a while something may happen and that motherboard may go out, and if it does, then you lose all your programs. So you definitely want to be backing up your robot periodically, and that's where you could take that backup right here and load that up. Another option is if you're actually connected to the network and the robot's connected to the robot, you can actually pull all that information directly from the robot right in from a live running robot. Okay? But I'm just going to use the first option here and just create a brand new robot and go through some of the setups here. So we just go to the next screen. Now this is where you choose your controller. Okay, so you can choose your various controllers. So if you know, hey, we've got this robot or that robot, but maybe we don't really have a backup we want to restore from, then we can at least choose the same controller. So I'm going to, one of them that we have in the classroom is 7.7. So I'm going to choose the version 7.7 controller here, which is an R30IA. Okay. And then we choose the actual software. Okay, the main default software for Fanuc robots is the handling tool software, H552. If you have an LR mate like we actually have in the classroom, it would be in H551. All right, and then there's a couple of other defaults there. But so you get to choose this, and depending on which version of the Roboguide that you have, you can also, at this stage, choose your end of arm tooling. But I'm actually just going to leave that off for a minute. So I'll show you how to set up tooling when we get in there. So I'm going to say, don't put any tooling on here. Okay. And I'm going to go next. And then this is where you actually choose the robot. So up here on step 3, we chose the controller version. Now we're actually going to choose the physical robot. And I like this R2000IB 165 robot. I've worked on these before, and I just kind of really like these. So I typically choose this unless I specifically know I'm going to be working with a different one. So I'm going to choose this robot. And then you can add some like turntables or other servo drives or things here at this screen. I'm just going to leave those off for now. And then this is where you can choose all your different software options. Okay, so we chose the handling tool. That's like the base operating system. So if you wanted to compare that to Windows, you know, that's like, you know, H552 would be like the handling tool. That would be like the Windows 10 professional version. Or if I would have chose the LR handling tool 551, that might have been more like the Windows 10 home edition kind of thing. So you know, that's like the base operating system. But now we're choosing like the extra software that goes on top of that. So like if you're doing IR Vision or something, then you would have to select the Vision. If you need Ethernet IP, then you would have to come and scroll down to the E's and find Ethernet IP. And there's several different options depending on exactly what you want to do with the Ethernet IP, and so on. So again, with the analogy of Windows, these would be the applications on top, like Microsoft Office or Firefox web browser or the Chrome web browser or something like that. The extra software that goes on top of the main. Okay. And then you can choose language and stuff up here at the top too. But I'm just going to not select any extra and just move on. And so then we get to the summary page here, and this just gives you an extra chance to just go back and double check your options and make sure you can go back if you decided you wanted to change something there. The other thing this will do, a lot of times when you pick a specific software option, it requires some other option to also be selected. And so when you get when you click on the next button to get to this screen, it does a check there, and it'll tell you if, you know, hey, you know, such and such software option you chose also requires this other software or something along those lines. So it'll actually warn you that you're missing something that you're going to need based on your selection. And then you could go back and adjust it. Okay. So, but I'm just going to go ahead with this default pretty much setup here and click on finish. Now, as I said before, this is actually like a virtual robot. So what it's doing right now is it's actually installing all the different software pieces, and, you know, which even though I didn't choose extra options, there's just all the different pieces of the base operating system here. It's installing those, and then it's will boot up the robot controller. Okay, because it's actually a virtual machine. So that's why it's kind of taking a little bit of time here. All right. So, you know, as you can see, you know, this is basically your teach pendant. Okay, and this is the older style teach pendant. And we'll kind of look there. We can choose, but we can't do anything right here because it's just waiting for it to boot up. All right, and actually once it boots up, then the teach pendant's going to go away and it's going to show us the work cell environment. All right, so here we can see our work cell environment now. And so you can see the robot sitting in here, and you see there's this green Cartesian sort of axis here. You can see like there's your Y, there's your X, and there's your Z. And this right here is referred to as the teach tool. And so what you can do is you can actually click on that, and it would allow you to like drag the robot around. Okay, so just to kind of illustrate that, I want to show you there's lots of different options. Over here is our work cell view, and it shows you all kinds of different things. So you could come over here and you could add a machine, or you could add a fixture. I'm just going to add a generic fixture here. So I'm going to right click over here, add fixture, and I'm just going to add a box. Okay, and so it's something kind of weird with this software. When you add it, for some reason, everything you want to add, it just seems to float up here in air. So when you look at this, you can see there's that little green teach tool on top of this box. Okay, and it's got its XYZ, and it's right on the top surface of this box. And so when you look over here in your settings, you can see like the size of the box. So we could change the size of the box in the X direction. Maybe I'll make that 500, okay, instead of 1,000. Now this is in millimeters, right? So, so I can change that. And so you can see then the X direction is much smaller now. It's only half as wide, all right? Or you can change it back, and you can hit apply to see what it looks like before you do that. But again, you notice that this thing's just kind of seems almost like it's sitting on top of our robot here. And so what I want to do is I'm going to set the X direction, and I'm going to put that about 1 meter in front of the robot. Okay, and maybe I'll put it about 1.5 meters, 1,500 millimeters. Okay, and then I'm going to set the Z. Now notice the size of my box is 1,000 millimeters or 1 meter, and it's 1,000, or excuse me, 3,000 millimeters in the air. And so what I need to do, if I make this 0, if I make the Z 0, what it does is it puts the top of the box even with the floor. So the box is actually underneath the floor with just the surface of the box right on the surface of the floor. Okay, so what you need to do, and that's because this teach tool sits on the center of the top of the box. So what we need to do is make our Z 1,000 so that the box is actually sitting on the floor now. Okay, and so then you can adjust it. But if I change like the height of Z, if I make the height of Z 500, okay, now the box is floating in the air again. So then I would have to change my location to 500 also, so the box can sit on the floor. It's supposed to be a fixture. It's supposed to not move. So I don't know how it's going to float in the air. So, but again, it's a simulation software, so you could simulate that it's doing that. Okay. All right. So now once you do that, then you need to click on lock. Okay. And when I click on lock and I either hit apply, or when you hit OK, you apply it and OK it. But you notice now the fixture is turned red. And what that little teach tool piece has turned red. What that means is I can't just click on this box and drag it. However, my robot's teach tool, when I click on the robot, the teach tool moves over there and it's still green. So what this means is I can actually grab this and I can drag the robot around the box. Okay, so, and you know, or I can spin it, you know, and I can like knock the robot kind of on its sort of on its side halfway through the floor kind of thing. All right, so what you really need to do here, double click on the robot and you'll get the setup box for the robot, and then you want to set these values. Normally you want them just be 0, 0, 0, so that the robot is in the center of the work cell, perfectly flat. Okay, and so that puts it back where it was, and then you need to lock it so you can't accidentally drag it around. So you need to do this with any kind of fixture, machine, or the robot itself that's in the work cell. You need to lock it in place so that it's where it belongs. Okay, and because it's really easy if you don't lock it for you to click on it and start dragging it, thinking that you're dragging the tooltip around and you're actually dragging the fixture or the robot itself. Okay. All right, so looking at the robot now, you can see that when I was messing around there, I kind of got him all turned around and stuff. If you see this green ball here, that green ball is the TCP globe. The TCP stands for the tool center point. And so that's the center point of your tool. And right now, if you remember during setup, I didn't set a tool. And so by default, your tool center point is the faceplate of the robot where you're going to mount the tool. Okay. All right, so if we come on up here in our work cell box and we go to the controller and we go to the robot arm and we hit the plus, you see under there tooling, and then under tooling, you can see there's user tool 1. Now, if I right click on this and go to properties, it pops up a box and allows me to set a lot of different things. And the first thing I want to set here is the CAD file. Okay, and you see like it's just got this generic name. Well, we can go actually there and put in there, you know, this is going to be a pointer. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the little box and it goes to the image library. So they provide you with a lot of different images that you can use and you can add into your work cell. And so, you know, this is the main folder of the image library. And these are basically CAD drawings. And you can have your own CAD drawings and select those too. So, but this is the library supplied by the software. So I'm going to go to end of arm tooling. And I'm just going to go to pointers, and I'm just going to select this one pointer because there's only one in there. And so I'm going to hit apply. Now, when I do that, I want you to notice the tool center point right now is at the faceplate. When I apply this, you're going to see the pointer appear. However, you don't see the green tip because the green tip, if I grab this and I drag it, you see that the green tip is still at the faceplate. Okay, so that means that it's not taught to my tool. All right, so and again, when you do this, now you see that this pointer is just floating in air. So you need to kind of make sure most of the time, unless you're doing something fancy, all right, your end of arm tooling has to have a location of all zeros. Okay. Now, if you see over here, we also have the scale of it. You can scale it in the X direction. You can scale it in the Y direction. Okay. And you can scale it in the Z direction. So I'm gonna leave it of a 100% in the X and the Y direction, but I'm going to make the pointer a little bit longer. So I'm going to extend it in the Z direction. So you see it's been extended, and then I'm going to lock it. So again, that I can't accidentally drag it out of place. Okay. And so you can see that the little teach tool has turned red now, but I can still double click on the pointer here and return to this screen if I want to make an adjustment, or I can come back over here and I can double click on it here and pop that box up. Now, what I need to do though is I need to set the tool frame. So again, that TCP, that green ball, is the tool center point, and right now it's mounted to the face point. But you know, if this is a pointer, my tool center point is at the tip of the pointer. And so what I need to do here is I need to go to the U tool, and I'm going to say edit the U tool. And now you see I've got my little teach tool, but when I grab this, you can see the green ball is coming along with it. All right. And so now we can pull this out and we can swing this around and find the tip of this pointer. Okay. Now we can adjust that then, and when we get it where we want it, we can use the current position. Okay. Or if we know exactly what we want it to be, I'm just going to hard code it here to 360 and apply it. Okay. And then that locks it. So now you see that the tools point is right there about at the tip of the robot, maybe actually just a couple millimeters away from it, because it did it wanted to be 358. Okay, so I could just like double click on it again. Oops. And say 358. Okay. All right, so then we can set that. Now you notice I've been zooming in and out and kind of swinging this around. So how do we do that? Well, if you look up here, there's a little mouse. If you click on the mouse, it will show you the mouse commands, and then you can just click on it to make them hide or make them go away again. All right. The same with your cell browser, your work cell browser over here. If you click on this, you can make that disappear, so that you know when you want to concentrate on the work cell and you don't need to make adjustments, you can just click on that, make that disappear. Okay. But if you click on the mouse, you can see that if you right click and drag, what you're doing there is you're moving the camera view. All right. So the robot isn't moving. Okay. The robot isn't moving, but it's like you're, I don't know, in a little helicopter or drone or something with a camera, and you're just kind of flying around this. And so, you know, the position of your camera is what's moving. The robot and the fixture are fixed. They're not moving. All right. If you use your wheel mouse, you can just scroll in and out. We'll zoom in and out. If you press and hold the wheel, it will allow you to just kind of drag the whole view around without, it's not rotating it around, it's just shifting it within the picture. All right, and you can see the other options there. Okay. All right, so something else that's very nice here, if you come up to window, there's something called 3D panes. And so if you come over here, I like to put 3 panes over here on my right hand side. And so now you see that they're actually all look like the same view, but if I click on one of these, I can drag this view around, zoom in, zoom out, pan it back and forth, just like I was doing over here in the main picture. We also have up here these 3D world views, which allow you to get quickly to a fixed sort of view. So if right now I'm highlighted on this top one, so if I click on top, then I'm looking straight down on the robot and the fixture. If I then come down and highlight the middle window, and I can get a view from the front. So this is a front view. So we're right in front of the robot. And again, we can hold down the middle mouse button and pan it and just shift it in the picture. We can run the middle mouse button in and out to zoom in and zoom out, or we can right click and shift it around. So now I right click, I shifted it all around, and then I can come back over here and say, no, give me that front view again. All right, but it changes your zoom every time you do that. So you might have to shift it a little bit more. And the same for the bottom view. You can you can shift it around. So this is very nice because a lot of times, you know, even if you're teaching the real robot, let's say you want to try to get this pointer right on the tip of the box. Well, to do that, you know, you need to be able to see it. And you may think you got it lined up when you're looking at it from one angle, but when you look at it from a different angle, you're still 3 inches away or 6 inches away. And so these multi-views allow you to view it from different angles at the same time. All right, so what I'm going to do here is kind of show you, right, we've got our tool on here, our pointer, and if I click on this, I can now drag this tool center point teach tool piece, and you know, you can see as I drag it, the robot moves back and forth. All right, now you see the TCP globe is green. Now, if I move it over here, you're going to see it turn red. What that means is that I've put it into a place where the robot can't actually get to. Okay, so the robot can't actually reach where it's at there. But when I get it anywhere that the robot can reach, you can see it moving that arm back and forth along there. Okay. All right, so those are kind of the main settings here. One other very, very nice tool here is this little ruler up here. If you come up there, it says measure tool. If you click on that, then you can select, okay, so I'm going to say, well, I want to go from my tool center point, okay. So I'm going to go to my tool center point, and I want to measure, say, to the corner here. So I'm going to go from here, and I want to measure down here to the corner of this box, okay? And so when you do this, you see it gives you like a 3-dimensional cube here, and it shows you the diagonal, which is the straight line shortest distance to that, and tells you what that distance is. Okay, and then it also tells you what the distance is in the X and the Y and the Z directions. Okay, so the colors that might be a little bit hard to read on your screen right now, but you can see those in there. So the measure tool is very handy that it allows you to do that and shows you what the distance is and all those. All right, so I guess that's about all I'm going to show you right here on this screen. Now I'm going to flip over to another version of the Roboguide where I already have a program set up. Okay, so when we come over here, I've got this separate version set up here where I already have this robot here, and it's got a pointer like the other one that we had, but you can see I've got several fixtures in here now, and I've already created a program. So if I wanted to go to the teach pendant, I come over here and you can see it says show hide teach pendant. So if I click on that, the teach pendant will appear. All right, and so this is the standard eye pendant, teach pendant for the Fanuc robot here. Now, sometimes I've noticed, depending on the resolution of your screen, this thing, it gives you a huge screen, which is really nice, but sometimes the keys on the teach pendant are kind of covered up at the bottom. So what you can do, if you can't see the keys too well, if you click on this, it'll toggle between the eye pendant back to the more traditional pendant. And of course, that makes the screen much smaller and harder to read, but the buttons are much easier to see and reach and stuff. So you can toggle back and forth between those. Another thing is that it's got this window thing here. So by default, when you first open the Roboguide, it wants to tie the teach pendant and keep it stuck in this little window. And so a lot of times that's really kind of hard because it's in the way, especially if you're running dual monitors. You can run it over to the other side. So, you know, put the teach pendant over here on my other screen where you guys can't actually see it now. But so those are a couple things you can do on that. So I'll flip back through here, and you can see that the teach pendant has actually had to boot up, okay, because the teach pendant is actually separate computer from the controller. And so all right, so the if we click on the edit program here, you can see that here is this edit program, or this program that I have called HR Shapes. And what this program does is it just kind of goes through and traverses around these various fixtures in here. So you can see that actually what I have is basically a box or a fixture inside of a fixture inside of a fixture. And so but each one's a little bit higher and a little more inside of the other. Okay, and so what it'll do is it'll go around the top surface of each one of these edges here. So that's all this program does. Okay, but what I want to illustrate to you here is a couple of key points of the robot. So if you want to just jog the robot, you can turn the teach pendant on just like you would normally. And then you have to hold down the shift key. Now there's not a dead man to hold because it's not a real teach pendant, but you press and hold the shift, and then you can jog, and then you can jog your pointer around. Okay, and it's going very, very fast. Okay, so you can change your speeds just like you would on an ordinary teach pendant. Okay, because it, you know, at 100%, these things move pretty fast. But you can see in all the different screens, you can see the pointer moving around. Okay, and so you can just jog it normally. You can come in here, you can edit your program. You can, you know, go to your menu. You can run macros if you have them. You can change all your various setups and frames and anything like you would a real robot. Okay. Now, if you wanted to test this program, you could hit the step button and tell it and run it one step at a time, and you can see it, and it's just going to kind of walk through the program. And you can see right now I'm down here at line 30 or whatever. Now, when I'm holding down my shift key, and I move my mouse on top of the teach pendant, it shifts around. That's why it was jumping so much there. All right, but you can, you know, you can step through the program, or you can take step off and you can run it through the program. Okay. All right, and then when you wanted to run it in auto mode, okay, you see this little play button up here. If I come over here and I click on the play button, it's like it actually, it's not showing it with the teach pendant in front of it, but if I come over here and I bring it up here, you see it actually says cycle start on here. So this is just like the green cycle start button on the controller of the robot. So when I press that, it'll start the program. It'll start running the program in auto mode. Now, if you remember, right, to run it in auto mode, your teach pendant has to be off. But I'm going to leave the teach pendant on here. And what you're going to see here, when I press this cycle start button, what it's going to do is it's actually going to shut that teach pendant switch off, because it knows that it needs to be off to be in auto mode. So by pressing this, it turned that switch off, and then you can see that it's walking around the program here. Okay. It also changed my speed all the way back up to 100%. It loves to do that. So it runs it at full speed there. Okay. But so as you press this, you can just kind of see this walk through, and you can see the different angles by looking at the different angles, and you can see it run through the program. Now these traces that it's drawing, every time I hit that play, it creates these traces and it gives them a different color. Okay, and those are under profiles. So if we come back over, you know, if those are kind of bothering you there, then you can come over here to your work cell and you can see all these profiles here. So these are all the different profiles. And as you click on them, you can see the different runs that you made. And it actually gives a date and time of when these runs were made. All right. And so then, you know, you can click on this and delete it. Okay. Or you can just come up to profiles and just say delete all, and that'll clear them all out, and then you can put them again. You can also see in here, like it's showing you the points. Here's these are the points that are actually in the Teach Pendant program, and they're labeled. You can see there's 0.1 in that. So if we come over here, right, see right now it's a 0.1, right? And we can see in the Teach Pendant program, it's a 0.1 and it's labeled home. So that's showing you those points. And so if you come up to view, there's some other things you can play around with turning on and off. Sometimes it's nice to see those, but other times they're kind of cluttering up the screen. So like I could select position connector lines here, and it shows the path that between the points. So you can see like we're going from 0.5 here back to 0.2, back to 0.1. All right, so you can play around with the view and see those settings. If you need to restart your controller, you come up here to Robot, and then there's a restart, and you can choose one of the starting methods, either an init start, which will wipe everything but your base software. Okay, so you lose all your programs if you do that, or the cold start or controlled start. Okay? Or you could just turn off the controller if you wanted. Okay, guess I've never really done that, but and then so when you're done, you can just close the program. All right, make sure you save it. It'll make a backup, and it creates save points, and you can actually make other save points. But if we look here, if we come over here, remember that was under documents for me, work cells, my work cells actually. And then I was working on the program here, and you see it has these save points, and it's got one called auto save, and this is that auto save I talked about. Every time you make a change, it's saving any changes that you made. All right, and then you can see here these are like fixed save points at different times. So if you you know, you can go back and you can force a save point in there if you, before you like try, I'm like, hey, let's try something really drastic. Well, then you can make a save point, and then you can always restore back to that save point then. All right, so this is the, like I say, this is basically just an overview of the Roboguide software here. And so you can see it's a very nice tool. It makes it very easy for you to test and to create programs. And then, like I say, you know, if you have actually created the program using an image from your real robot, then you should be able to transfer it directly over to that robot. And of course, anytime you do that, you always want to test it before you go to auto mode, but it should run pretty much as you expect, because you've got the exact same software, you've got the same frames, you've got the same variables, unless of course you made changes to those while you were in this virtual environment. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of how to use this software, and you can start working and try it out.